Okay, so here we are, the motor principle. This is one of my favorite lessons and topics of the year. Uh, Unfortunately, this video is not running, but I'm going to show this to you sometime. This is a great little motor, electric motor you can make, and all it is a little battery. You can't hardly see them, but they're two little those little rare earth magnets, really strong ones, and you wrap a coil around the battery. And if you wrap around just right, you can get the coil to start to rotate. It's pretty fun, and I, of course, I've had kids in class do it. So we're learning, obviously, about the motor principle. Last lesson was about this connection between electricity and magnetism, that if you had an electric current running, that would create a magnetic field. And the idea is, what this guy, Michael Faraday, the idea he came up with is that if you have more than one magnetic field, you can make things move. So we know that a magnetic force will cause something to move, right? And that's what we want to do with the motor principle. We create a rotation, and in there's electric motors, lots of applications that you can do work if you can make something rotate. Okay, so Michael Faraday, by the way, he was a great. He's a physicist. There's been lots of different types of physicists. This guy, though, he wasn't. I'm not even certain he might if he had a university degree. But what this guy did is he was an experimenter, and he just did all this experimentation and became really the master of electromagnetism. He figured it all out. Some other physicist years later, James Maxwell, came up with like all the equations and all the math to go with it. Faraday didn't come up with any of that. He came up with all the stuff we're going to talk about in this unit, which is, making electricity and magnetism work together. So anyways, here's how a motor works. And this is not a motor, but this is the principle, okay? So picture here I've got a magnet, and this is just some fixed magnet, and inside every electric motor there's a fixed magnet. Then you've got this circle here represents a conductor, and in this case the conductor is just a straight line conductor moving into the with electricity current moving into the page. Okay, this is one particular example. Then here, this red is the magnetic field in the fixed magnet, and the magnetic field's pointing from north to south, okay, as magnetic fields do. Well, this conductor right here has its own magnetic field, right, and it's a circular magnetic field, and using the left-hand rule, these arrows represent the direction of it. And I purposely drew these lines here to sort of be stretched, because what happens is, because this magnetic field is pointing that way, right? So if I was going to draw lines right here, this magnetic field is pointing in that direction, and this one's in that direction, opposites attract. So that sort of pulls up here, and it causes there to be an actual force acting on this conductor that wants to pull it, in this case, up. And that is the principle. That's how a motor works. You have a conductor, some current, electrical current running through a magnet, like running near a magnet, not through the magnet itself, but running through a conductor near the magnet, and then the magnetic field created by each work together to make the conductor want to move. So there is a left-hand rule that you can predict. Basically, I told you this thing's going to move up. There's an easier way to sort of sort that out rather than drawing all the electric fields. What you say is you take an open palm with your left hand, where your thumb follows the electric current, your fingers point, all four fingers sort of glued together, they point in the direction of the magnetic field. That's the fixed magnet. And then your palm will show you where the motion will be. I'm going to skip this, jump to here. So just using that principle, determine the direction of the magnetic force acting on the conductor below. So here I've got my fixed magnet. Here's the conductor with electricity going into it. And so if I take my thumb, point my thumb into the page, and my fingers point towards the south, you end up having a force in the right direction. I'm going to just keep moving on. You might want to write this down. You don't have to, though, if you kind of follow what I did there with the left-hand rule. And I was going to do another example as well. So on this one here, This is, picture this, this is like you're looking head on a magnet, right? So it's like if it's a horseshoe magnet, it's like I took this one and just rotated it so you're looking at the face of it. So I'm looking head on, and now I've got my conductor again pointing into the page, and I want to find the direction of the force. My left hand, flat palm, thumb follows the electrons, fingers point south, so if I do that, my palm's pointing to the left. Okay, so that's the left-hand rule for the motor principle, and I will want you to be able to sort questions like that out when you write your test. So I should have made this after. So what do you need if you want to make a motor? Well, you need some sort of fixed magnet, and this is more what it looks like because they're usually in a circle. And I'm going to show you in class. I'll show you my I have a generator that looks like, but it actually works like a magnet, or motor. It looks just like a motor. So here's my fixed magnet, and then you have to have a conductor. And in this case, you can see these lines here. These are actually the conductor. They're wraps called a solenoid, and I'm going to show you that too in class. Okay, what those look like. But the idea is that this piece in the middle, see this big gray piece? That's called an armature, and all it is what the conductor is wrapped around. Like in theory, you could have a motor where it's just one straight conductor, like I showed you, but in practice that doesn't work because you can't get a very strong magnetic field. You need the wraps to give you the strength of the magnetic field to actually do work, to do something useful. Okay, so I got a little video, and this is this great old school video. I'd like you to answer these questions. When we get to that point in the video, I'll just mention that, so when it's going to answer it, so you can write below or whatever. Oh, I have to done. Thought it was built in. Here it is. Here, I'll put it right there. I love the beginning of this video, by the way. Listen to this.
The year is 2010, and on Moonbase Alpha, a shipment of supplies is being prepared for a colony on Titan.
That's how old this video is, by the way.
The supplies have been loaded into a special pod which sits between the set of rails. A computer closes a switch, and the pod accelerates rapidly along the way. The force that accelerates the pod was first detected by French physicist André Ampère in 1820.
Okay, he's going to get into the answer number 1 here.
He noticed that when the currents in two parallel conductors were flowing in the same direction, the conductors attracted each other. But when the currents were in opposite directions, the conductors repelled each other. Ampère reasoned that the magnetic fields around the wires created attraction and repulsion forces. The left-hand rule for a conductor predicts the direction of the field around each of the wires. When the fields in between are in the same direction for each of the wires, repulsion occurs. This repulsion is similar to what happens when two bar magnets are placed side by side, so that the field of one magnet is in the same direction as the field of the other magnet. When the electron flow in two wires is in the same direction, then, in the space between the wires, the field produced by one wire runs in the opposite direction to the field produced by the other wire. As a result, the wires are attracted to each other. Again, this is similar to two bar magnets placed such that the fields between them run in opposite directions. These principles explain the mechanism used to launch the supply pod. The launcher, called a railgun, consists of two rails which can conduct massive amounts of current. The supply pod itself is also a good conductor. When the rail gun is activated, a massive current flows down one rail, crosses through the pod to the other, and returns, completing the circuit. Because of the interacting fields, there is a large force trying to push the rails apart, but they are securely fastened and can't move. The field produced by the current flowing through the pod is in the same direction as the field between the rails. This results in a repulsive force which pushes on the pod. And since the pod is not fixed, the force acting on it is able to propel it down the track at greater and greater speed. The direction of the force on a current-carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field can be easily determined. If the electron flow is in this direction, the field produced around the conductor will interact with the field produced by the magnets. Since the two fields are in the same direction above the conductor is repelled downward. If the direction of electron flow is reversed, then the field around the conductor also reverses. The fields are now in the same direction below the conductor, and so the conductor is repelled upward. This effect is called the motor principle. The motor principle is one of the most important applications of Hans Christian Ørsted's discovery of electromagnetism. But it was British physicist Michael Faraday who in 1821 put all the pieces together and devised the first electromagnetic motor. The motor principle states that if a current-carrying conductor is placed within an external magnetic field, it will experience a force which is perpendicular to both the direction of the electron flow and the external magnetic field. The direction of the force is determined by the left-hand rule for force. Namely, if the thumb points in the direction of electron flow, and the fingers point in the direction of the external magnetic field, then an imaginary arrow drawn straight out from the palm indicates the direction of the force exerted on the conductor. Now, if the current is reversed, the thumb points in the direction of electron flow, the fingers point in the direction of the external magnetic field, and the palm indicates the direction of the force exerted on the wire, in this case downward. The motor principle got its name because its first application was in the design of electric motors. A loop of wire carrying a current is placed between magnetic poles.
We're almost coming up to number 2 here.
If we apply the left-hand rule for force on this side of the loop, so that the thumb indicates the direction of electron flow, and the fingers indicate the direction of the external magnetic field, then the force on the conductor will be upward as indicated by the palm. When the left-hand rule for force is applied to the other side, the palm indicates a downward force. These two forces will cause the loop to rotate about an axis until the loop is vertical.
Okay, we're going to answer 2
If it
very soon.
rotates past the vertical, these same forces will stop the rotation and return the loop to the vertical position. But to perform work, the loop must continue to rotate.
So number 3 is coming.
This is easily accomplished by directing the electron flow through a split ring called a commutator. which is in contact with graphite brushes. Initially, electron flow is in the same direction as shown earlier. Then the loop rotates as before. But as soon as the loop passes through the vertical plane, the commutator causes the electron flow to reverse. This reverses the direction of the forces on the sides of the loop, which causes the loop to continue rotating. The split-ring commutator reverses the electron flow in the loop every half rotation, just at the instant it is required to keep the loop rotating.
Number 3.
Normally, we use electric energy to run a motor. But could we use a motor to produce electric energy?
Okay, so I'm going to stop this video right now. It's a long one, eh? And I do have a little bit more to go through on schematic of electric motors, but I'm going to put that on a part 2. This might get too long for me to upload.